Good afternoon, my beautiful city of Flint. Again, this is Brother Hubert Naeem Roberts coming to you live and in color. Chairman, Black Lives Matter, Flint. Phone number is 810-394-4105. Email is mentorroberts@gmail.com. Again, I'm putting a call out for our community to come join Black Lives Matter. A lot of times we have this 95 kind of concept about who's doing the work. So 95% of the people complain about this is not being done, that's not being done, why they do this or why they do that. And so often we look at someone else to solve our problems, and our problem has to start within us and for us to engage in making it happen. It takes us to be unified to make it happen. I'd like to greet you guys as always in the honor of Mansa Musa, because that spirit is indicative in our culture, in who we are as a committed people on this planet. And another thing, so often what's going on in our community is, and in the diaspora, is that we truly don't know our history. We don't really know how powerful we are, and we're not engaged in truly loving one another unconditionally. So I like to ask you, if you're sitting next to someone, you hear my voice, say hello to them, hug them, and all throughout the day, have an attitude of servant and happiness towards anyone that you meet. Even if you got some strife going on with family members or loved ones, work to forgive one another so we can unify and work together to get some things done before we die, because we are truly going to die. I like to honor this broadcast today. I'm always trying to bring history to our community and in a impactful way. I lost a dear friend of mine yesterday, Mr. William Sams. He died yesterday, 75 years old. Beautiful, beautiful soul, has been part of my life for the past 20 years. A man that I respected, that I loved, that I cherished. And one thing about our relationship, even as he transitioned, um, I'm thankful and grateful that I had a chance to really be a part of his life in an intimate way, meaning, being there to assist him on different projects, even when his health started failing, had been there to take him to appointments, to the hospital, and just lending an ear to just listen to some of his beautiful wisdom. So again, in honor of Mr. William Sams, I'd like to dedicate our program today. What we want to cover today, I really would like to talk about two books and frame it or couch it in our conversation as far as our history, how important it is. The first book is by Russ Parr. The title of the book is called The Art of the BS. The Art of the BS. Russ Parr was a nationally syndicated radio host, had a phenomenal career. The other book just came out about 2 weeks ago. Clay Cane. It's called The Grift. And the definition of this is the downward spiral of Black Republicans from the party of Lincoln to the cult of Trump. And the first book, Russ Parr, again, The Art of the BS, his underlying title was, If You Have to Kiss Someone's Butt to Get Ahead in America, you need to do that. And again, why I'm gleaming our conversations in those two uh, um, contexts is because my beautiful sister, Ms. Winters, and one conversation I'm going to speak on, Ms. Winters, is I would love to sometime come on and be a part of that celebration where we do a counterpoint. They used to do that in the 60s, because much of what we are engaged in this community, because most of us do not know Flint history, number one, and a lot of the banter as far as the haves and the have-nots and the way Flint is set up, because like downtown, if you look at downtown and you you can think of downtown like going into the Roman Colosseum. And so during the Roman Colosseums at different times, they would have heads of their different cultures they conquered. They would put the heads of their people they conquered or butchered on poles leading up into the king's palace. And so when you look at downtown, it's similar to that because you have on the if you going south, if you're going south down Saginaw, leaving north, going down south, and it'll be on the left-hand side where you see all of these statues of these carpetbaggers and these grifters, and when you put it in real context, capitalists, pure capitalists, right? And so when you look at those statues going down Saginaw Street, you know, you see exactly what people do in power, what they do to manifest, to make sure that you really are consciously understanding what their power really represents. Because how many Black statues are down in that alley on Saginaw Street going south? If you answer that question is, you know, I need you guys to either chat that in or let us know. You know, there's one statue down there and it's just been put up relatively a few years ago. Now, the point of this, why I'm bringing that up is we get so caught up in city council and the mayor's office. And historically in Flint, if you go back to like 1808 or 1746 and 1808 with Jacob Smith, and then into 1836, the first registered Black person here his name was John Carter. When you go back to those times, and even moving up when Buick and Chevrolet, because you think about it, you know, you had Durant, Buick, DuPont, Chevrolet, Cadillac, Chrysler. When you think about Ballinger, when you think about Kersley, all those names that I'm mentioning were the people that was running this town they call Flint. And most of them did not look, none of them look like you and I. And so in that context, we keep fighting in a system or over a system that has never included us. Because at one time, just like now, there were covenants by the federal government that did not allow Black people to live in certain places. They were regulated like we are today to several places that you had to live. You could not live outside of those boundaries. And what they did is they redlined. They are continuing to do redlining today. And so my question to Winters and to a lot of people that get frustrated with city council is stop going to city council meetings, number one. Stop doing it. Stop allowing yourself to be mistreated, misused, underestimated, undervalued, and marginalized by going down and being subjected to such hatred and such vitriol, because the whole concept of power is not given. You have to take it. And as residents of Flint, where we are not properly our needs are not being met. And so how are you paying into a system that is not meeting your needs, and you continue to go advocate for a system that's not paying attention to your needs, your basic needs? And we have been damaged and poisoned. Even when the inception of the auto industries came here, brought its level of poison. And we've been continued poison when you think about the incinerary plant they allowed to take place, when you think about the water crisis that they allowed to happen. All these things were allowed to happen in a community that's predominantly Black. It doesn't happen in white communities, number one. And why I'm asking our community to stop attending those meetings, and when you are out in public, we should be turning our backs and not engaging in no member of city council. You should not be engaged in any relationship with the mayor's office, even though they got the bag. So I understand that's why I bring up Russ Parr. Russ Parr, in his book, The Art of BS, and as I read the book is broken in chapters and numbers. And his position is to get anything in a capitalistic society, you have to kiss butt, bend over backward, and do whatever master says to be able to be included to get the money you need to further your agenda. That's the basic what he's saying in this book. And that's what's happening in our community today. And that's what has been happening all the time in Flint, Michigan. Flint, Michigan has been one of the most corrupt cities in the history of America. Why? Because the concentration of power. Most of those people down Saginaw Street, at one time you can say they were capitalists, innovators, all the accolades you can put on them. And on the other hand, you can say they were cutthroat hustlers because they were hustlers. This is what my point is. They hustled the auto industry. They hustled the carriage industry. They hustled, before that, it was fur trapping, and then it was the carriage, meaning the horse and buggy. So again, when you look at entrepreneurs or you look at business, and anytime when you look at business, especially in the context of capitalism, it's never designed to share the wealth. It is pure exploitation. And so many of our people came up the South, and they brought busloads of people up to this from the South. They could not read or write. Could not read or write. And then if you think about it, in 1956 and 1958, a person graduating from college with a master's degree didn't make as much money as a person in Flint, Michigan working on the line. Y'all hear what I'm saying, guys? And so while we continue to allow ourselves to be subjected to the Stockholm syndrome, because that's why history is so important. When you don't study history and you have no understanding about, and most people talk about, well, why do you go back, or let's leave that alone, or let's eliminate books, or let's don't talk about that. Why you bring up slavery? Why you bring this up, and why you bring that up? I bring it up, and why it should be brought up is because history is a prerequisite to what happens now and tomorrow. So when you know what happened in the past, you work not to repeat it. And so one thing they work to do, what they did, if you think about us being in America, and most of you guys, I know you want to be white, but for our conversation, what they did intentionally is took us from a place that we were minding our own business. And we were chilling, running around naked, not raping one another, not mistreating one another. We had our issues, but they were not to the degree where we were savage towards one another. We did not kill and engage in warfare where we was just mutilating and killing one another like it was sport. Never happened on the continent of Africa. And even when you think about the name of Africa, that's not its original name. And that's another thing I'm going to have a conversation before I stop this conversation with you guys. The power in naming something, the power to name something is incredible. And that's what we are subjected to today. Our brainwashing has been so severely done that many of us, and it's 55 million African Americans or Black Americans, or however you guys want to be expressed, all of us have names that are not our birth names. We are named after plantation owners. We're named after people that deemed us property, and they still deem us property today. So again, what does it look like? To take back any of your power, you have to start naming yourself. You have to start articulating your community for yourself. Why would you run down the city council and engage in a relationship with a council and council members and a system that's diametrically opposed to your existence? No one should be running for the next election. Nobody should be running for no offices, guys. We need to back out this system. Nobody should run for mayor. We need to stop this. Because what has it gotten us? All this, you're going to have police officers escort people out of the chambers. And as the so-called Constitution, there's some BS, but so-called Constitution is supposed we have a right. And that's what the Boston Tea Party was about, representation. So taxation without representation. So if I'm paying into a system that gives me the right, supposed to have rights to speak my discontent for what's happening in my community and be a part of making sure that my community is being a whole and healthy community. When they take that away and can remove people by the goon squad, that's no representation, number one. That is called gangsterism, because that's what we're under in Flint, Michigan. The government that we're under in Flint, Michigan is gangsterism. If you look at who gets what, it's gangsterism. That's all that a plantation was. When you think about a feudal society, when they set up the feudal society in England or in Western culture, because it's totally different from the African culture. African culture is communal. The feudal society is based on, you have those entities or those people that are controlling the power. And always in power, you got to remember, it's based on resources. Who have the resources and who don't. So you got to have any kind of society, meaning from not in our concept in Africa, which was communal, everybody worked together. And that's what we were doing even after 1865. We built and did wonderful and amazing things despite no help from the federal government at all. No help from the federal government. We made things out of nothing with no help from the federal government, from the Freedmen Bureau, or anything like that. And then even with that fake Reconstruction, it lasted 5 seconds, because by 1877, all that was done. Jim Crow came in, and that was 136 years with Jim Crow. So you're dealing with 326 years with brutal slavery, enslavement, and then the fake out with Lincoln with the so-called, because he was no dear friend to black people at all. That is a lie, guys. So when you think about the concept, and that's what I'm trying to get y'all back to understand how important history is. When you study Lincoln, when you study those different Lincoln papers, the Gettysburg Address, when you think about what Lincoln said, what Frederick Douglass said to Lincoln in 1861, because the first it was called the Confiscation Act. The Confiscation Act was instituted to those states that wanted to succeed. So what Lincoln and the Republicans said, we're going to create this act through Congress to say that if y'all want to succeed, then we taking all of y'all property. We're taking everything from y'all, because this is a union. If y'all want to succeed from this union, y'all going with nothing. See, that was that first Confiscation Act, meaning Lincoln and the Republican Party saying these slaves and your livelihood is going to be taken from you. And so y'all can go on and dilly-dally and do whatever you want to do, but you're not going to have your engine. And so, to be clear, the way Lincoln and the Republicans did, they was screwed. Because, again, y'all got to remember, the Republican Party at that time was the party to a greater degree when you think about supposed being engaged in this thing called equality or equity, which was the spook to sit by the door before this conversation of this history class. That's what they were laying down. Now, the Dixiecrats, they were staunch segregation. Though Dixiecrats are the one that wanted to succeed. You know, when you think about South Carolina, you know, Fort Sumner, when that shot was shot in 1861 across the harbor, they were saying that we are not wanting to be a part of this union because we want to keep our livelihood, which is our slaves. And so when we think about how those things manifest themselves today, we are still fighting the same capitulation that happened back in 1492, 1776, 1825, 1889. I mean, the same conversation and the same struggle is continuing to happen to us today, meaning not having a base of power as we once did for a millisecond. We had some power when you deal with Reconstruction. We had some pseudo power at one time, and we were more together picking cotton than we are today. We were more together at that time from 1865 to 1877. We were more together because there was a clear demarcation of who the enemy was. And yes, we were being killed, we were being lynched, we were being raped. Everything that you possibly can think of was happening to us on a daily. And despite all that, we still rose. See, that's what I want our community. We got power in Flint. Why I'm bringing up the Griff and Clay Cane book, because the Griff speaks about America is a grift. America has always been a business. And so we get so caught up in, we don't have no power. So I, myself, and family members, we haven't paid our water bill. My water bill is about 10 grand, I think it is. Refuse to pay it, guys. Taking a stand. I'd be out protesting by myself on the corner. People try to spit at me, talk about me, all that kind of stuff. Because I don't watch football, I don't watch any sports, because I'm boycotting all that kind of stuff. Because how dare is it? Think about this, guys. You get engaged in watching football, which is illusion, and our children in Flint can't read. Our children, the residents in Flint, let's break it down. Black people are 57% of the population in Flint, Michigan. In 57%. What do you think the literacy rate is in Flint, Michigan? Anybody? Y'all want to chime in or chap in? Because it's very important. I'm in the school system. I'm there. So I'm not making this up. It is very sad, guys, because a lot of times we want to throw darts and throw all this and you this and this and all. We want to hate, but we don't want to get engaged and do. Because we got 3 generations in our community, we got 3 generations of folks that has been broken intentionally. With the advent of the poison being put in our community with the dope, and even before then, and then with the intentionally taking our livelihood, which was General Motors, they intentionally took it out of Flint, Michigan. Intentionally. We let that happen. They bombed St. John. They bombed other communities with the interstate highway project under Eisenhower. Those things happened for a reason. And then we find ourselves today continuing to argue over peanuts. We allow $95 million to come into our community, which shouldn't have never happened because Barack Obama came in here and disrespected us. And then you guys, we run down, because I'm the chairman of Black Lives Matter Flint. I refuse, one of my responsibilities, to go down to city council. But I said, for what? What is my purpose to go to a council to get 2 minutes to speak? And it's a joke. And then you see these individuals in the community, and you have all these people got the nerve to want to come to places and spaces, and they be treated as they part of our family. And that goes to show how brainwashed we are, how much we hate one another. Because anytime someone has shown you that they despise you and you continue to love them, we are sick. And we enjoy and we deserve what we're getting. We deserve Shelton Neely. We deserve the city council. Because we don't want to take matters into our own hands. What do taking matters into our own hands really look like? Stop spending money out on Miller Road. Stop spending your hard-earned money in a system that is not benefiting you. What does it look like? A lot of the things that we are doing and engaging in, as far as partying or however you want to get off, we need to stop doing some things that we've been doing because they're not working for us. And listen, guys, individually, what I do, my family members, a few people, me boycotting sports. That ain't hurt y'all or nobody. I'm just telling y'all, but y'all don't care. But it's done something for me because I'm taking a stand. Like Malcolm, like Muhammad Ali, like Marcus Garvey, like Denmark Vassar, like Mansa Musa. I'm taking a stand, man, because I know I'm going to die. I'm dealing with cancer now. But I know what little time I have left, man, it's incumbent upon me to do what I can to help some of these young people read, to at least foster some kind of mentoring concepts where these children could believe that they can be anything they put their minds to. And we can't do this without other people wanting to be a part of this. And so I really, really, really want to pour my heart out to our city for us to start taking some things back block by block. If we're not engaged and we're not benefiting from the entertainment in this city, because most of the entertainment in the city is not designed for us. But we break our necks to go in places where they don't want us. We want to be next to some other people that don't look like us because that's our holy grail. That's our God. You know, this country, God is purely, clearly, has nothing to do with no Jesus. This country, God, is the mighty dollar. That's the only God they understand. And they clear with it. And they're going to make sure that they do everything they can to make sure you don't own nothing. You don't own your house. You don't own your car. Many of you guys don't own the clothes that you got on. So you think about that, a guy, when you have power, you own something. We don't even own our own names, guys. My last name from the plantation Roberts. And so to really do something different, I got to change my name, guys. When you say a conscious shift, when you talk about consciously shift, and I don't care, you don't have to name your name, no Muslim name, anything like that. You can name your name, I'm yellow or I'm purple. But when you have the power to determine and dictate your destiny, that's power. And so how do we start getting power, guys? We do it simply. We say, I'm not going to continue to engage in a name that's not mine. Grandmama, great-grandmama, grandma, you can blow on them, speak on them, you can tell them, listen here, I know you're 90 years old, we need to change your name. Why, son? Why, daughter? Because your name is birthed into enslavement. Your ancestors never had a power to self-determine who they really are. We have been told we was niggas, coloreds, African Americans, and we answer to all that BS. Just the other day, I don't care for him at all, call him Michael. He win 3 Grammys and get handcuffed and perp walked, and all them Rivers did not walk out with him. How you gonna be at the Grammys and all Jay-Z, those house Negroes didn't walk out with you? And then he got the nerve to be grinning, to be dancing, be buck dancing. I think it was despicable. That killer Mike, that Michael, whatever he is, it's unacceptable, guys. What we're doing to ourselves, we are a joke to humanity. That's why people don't respect us, guys. We got people that have a platform that are totally dangerous because they have no knowledge of history. People look up to to this red lady with red hair and gorilla people and all these people and these rappers that don't have a clue about who they are, where they come from. It even with Floyd Mayweather, he's another sick young man. Got all that money and hasn't done anything for his own community and brags about it. All that money. He said the other day, and I watched it. He said, "Oh, I work with the Jewish community because they make sure I'm tight. Because they make sure my money tight." Even right now with us, with all these Negroes that have money, if they put all their money in the black banks, Koreans do. Chinese, do you know Chinese? The Chinese community have banks, about 1,200 of them, and their endowment is almost like, I want to say 70 or 60 billion dollars. That's what kind of money the Chinese in America are dealing with. What our banks are dealing with. What kind of money we dealing with? How can we support and birth each other's business and ideas? Now, I want to be clear, guys, about how do we engage in moving forward. One thing that General David Hunter in 1862, he issued a proclamation because he saw how the war was going on, the Civil War was going on. So he entered a proclamation saying that, if you come over here, you're gonna be free. Lincoln vetoed that, and then later on in the summer, about in July or August, Lincoln come back around and reinstituted the Confiscation Act the second time and passed it through Congress, because what they found out is they could not win the Civil War without black people. I throw my hands up. This is a historical fact. The Civil War could not be won without the aid of black people. And we did all that we was trying to do for us to have some semblance of freedom, and was told a lie and was tricked from the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment, because all that did is changed it, ruffled the feathers a little bit, but it made sure that if you get convicted of any kind of crime with a felony, you would become an enslaved person again. It made sure, and what Lincoln and them made sure, that those Confederate generals, do you know all of them got their property back? They got their plantations back and their slaves back. How did they get their enslaved people back? It's called sharecropping. They changed it from enslavement to sharecropping. So you are working on a person's plantation. At the end of the year, y'all supposed to ante up and you supposed to make some money. But at the end of the year, every time you owed the plantation, you owed the person that owned the land, you could never get out of debt. And it's the same thing that we're dealing with in Flint, Michigan. We can never get out of debt because we don't know our worth. We don't know that we have the power to stop spending our money in these places and spaces that do not respect us, that do not honor us, not supporting these events in the city that do not respect us, that do not support us, and being very clear about where our tax dollars are going. Because if you want to be clear about where your tax dollars are going, you will find out very clearly it is not going nowhere near to benefit you. It is making sure other people are living off of your tax dollars, meaning you don't own, so you are renting. So as a renter, you are paying to other people to live in Dubai. They are privileged. They are living a beautiful life because every month you are paying into their children's college fund or their lifestyle because you don't own nothing. And at any time, right now, they can come in your home right now cut your lights off, your water off, and take your property with eminent domain, and what you're going to do. Because you don't own a consumer company, you don't own a nuclear plant, you don't own a water company, you don't own your house or apartment. Only thing you own is the clothes on your back, and or even the furniture in your house may be from Rent-A-Center. So you think about that, guys, as far as what can we really do to change our lives with the little time that we have, and then how are we going to teach and train our children for them to be entrepreneurs, for them to start working collectively and cohesively together to rebuild a community, where the dollar, the black dollar, it travels 100 times in that community before it leaves the community. Everything you want to do right now, everything y'all want to do right now should be done in your community. If you're saying, what is the answer, Mr. Roberts? So what's the answer, Mr. Roberts? Everywhere you go to eat, you go to play, you go to sleep, you go to entertain, should be in your community. Because that's how you build your community and not be ashamed of it. We're ashamed of one another because we've been taught to hate. We've been taught to kill each other. We've been taught to not trust each other. We've been taught to lie each other. We've been taught to not marry. We've been taught to have children out of wedlock. We've been taught all of the wrong things because we keep chasing the glitter. And Prince, beautiful song, all that glitter is not gold, and even in the center of fire, there's coal. So if you understand the concept of that song, even when you have fire, in the center of it is coal because of the oxygen and the combustion that takes place when it's ignited. So for a split second, it's cold. And so understanding that power and that concept of who we truly are, and that's why we bring up Mansa Musa. Because when we bring up history and historical figures and people and places and things, it is to instill in us, even being faced with all that we face with, that we have the power, if we tap into it, to be even greater. We have the power to control our own destiny. And it first starts out with naming ourselves. All of us, I'm putting out on this air, need to change our names. Ask your grandparents, your parents, why? Because if you change your name, what Lewis, Washington, I don't care what y'all names is, it's all been based on property. Someone owned you and named you and branded your mind. And that's why we perpetuate it today. We are doing things over and over and over and over and over again, thinking we're going to get different results, and we are in a worse condition than we ever thought possible. Flint, Michigan at one time was one of the most powerful cities in America. Flint, Michigan, and the city council and the mayor's office was profound, man. The school system was doing things, y'all. I mean, working together. You had purple, blue, onions, cucumbers, however you want to dissect different people, but they all was working together for a common goal, guys. And yes, you had hatred and bigotry, some of the worst bigotry. But even despite that, a lot of those people that was bigots found common ground to work on some things for all of us to heal and to build. It was about building and ownership. It was about being responsible and accountable for each other, guys. And so our goal must be, how do we engage in a different conversation? And that's why I'm putting a call out to Sister Winters. I would love to come on the show and be like a counterpoint. They used to have that show back in the 60s. I think it was that one correspondent, Ed Bradley, one of them guys back when I was a kid. But it was a profound show because it had, you got almost like a debate. So you have one person debating one aspect of the same thing, right? Because we can look at things. We can look at an apple and say that apple, to some degree, I could look at it one day and another person could look at it another way, but it's still an apple, right? And because it's an apple, which is the truth, then how do we work together to get to a common medium where we can work together to make things happen? Even though that's an apple, and there's different sides of an apple, but how can we see the goodness in that apple and work together where it benefits all of us? Because we have been bombarded with being selfish and not wanting to share, being jealous of envy of each other, being hatred. I hate you. I hate you because you're lighter. I hate you because you're darker. I hate you because you're prettier. I hate you because you're thin or you're fat. So we have been engaged in this constant ebb and flow of hating one another because that too was baked in 1492. All that hatred and evil was baked into enslavement of our people. All that was baked into, they had a Bible for slave people and a Bible for other people. All that was created. That's no lie. I'm not embellishing. All those things truly, truly happened to us as a people. And so when you think about any government entity, if it wants to try to heal, because we shouldn't be in the state that we're in today in this country, with all of the with all of the Trump mess and Tea Party and separatism and hatred. And to be honest with you, you really can't hate nobody unless you got some power over them. You really can't be racist unless you have power. Because if you don't have power to control another human being's life, you have no power. So you think about it. In our society that we live in, how much control do we really have? And to a greater degree, we are in this country as a guest. Because at any time, they can take all our voting rights away, which they're doing. They can take all your property away, which they're doing. They can demonize you on a daily basis. Look what they did to Kobe or any of our so-called people that people look up to. Many times they always find fault in anything that they do. Just like the other day, when you think about what happened in Kansas City, it's amazing how they don't show the picture of the young people that was engaged in that shooting and that killing at the Super Bowl party, because both of them are of another culture. But if it was somebody that looked like me and you, it would be blasted all over the news. So it shows you how they are selective about their victimhood and how they perpetuate violence, how they are engaged in violence. Because this has always been a violent culture. This has always been a violent country. Anytime you take something from people that was already here, and that the people that was already here fought to keep it and lost it through bloodshed, and even us coming here, we fought tooth and nail not to come here. And there are so many millions and millions and millions of us that never made here, that was lost in the ocean. And I stand on their shoulders. Nobody has spoken a word about those millions of family members that we have lost. And I stand here today to acknowledge them, that they existed. And that's what we all should be doing. We should all be celebrating our ancestors, those that were never missing, that was lost, because they give us strength as far as how we need to move collectively together. And then in many times in our culture, we have to be honest about those people that are going to be allies and those people that are not, that look like me and you. There are people that look like me and you that will support just being dignified and being treated like a human being. And then there's other people that's in our community that look like me and you that have bought into capitalism, and they are lining themselves up on a daily basis with the power base. And they're going to make sure that they are getting the grants, they're getting funded, they're getting treated as they feel they need to be treated to be accepted by the system that's paying their insurance, car insurance, or their 401k. Now, before I close out, I want to make sure that our community know that today Umar Johnson is coming today at the Flint Development Center. He's going to be there at 4 o'clock. Going to do a tour. Then the panel discussion starts at about 5 or 5:15. They are going to give yours truly for 2 minutes to speak. 2 minutes, man. All I'm saying is hello, goodbye. But if you guys have any time, I'm hoping that you guys will truly come out and support that. Another event is taking place on the 29th at the Art Council downtown next to Halo Burgers. 6 o'clock Friday is going to be a Black History program. It's the last day of Black History. Black History is 365, so let's make that clear. Black History is not just February, 29 days. It's every day of our lives. We have been part of tremendous things to humanity. We invented civilization, health, medicine, math, language, astrology. When you think about farming and cultivation, all that based in Africa. All that started in Africa, guys. I know you don't want to accept it, but that's what we invented. And we have been inventing, and we are inventors, and we are creators on any situation. The next thing I want to say, our annual Day at the Lake fishing trip is coming up. I'm putting a call out to our community to be a part of it. You can contact me if you're interested. We're looking for volunteers, families. You can be from 3 years old to 300. Girls and boys, mom and dad. The fishing trip is designed. We use fishing as a mentoring tool. And what we try to do is teach our young people and family members. We got 10 stations set up, and you will learn everything from casting to baiting to cleaning the fish to etiquette around the lake. We have 10 stations set up, and you're going to learn something from every one of those stations, and then get a free fishing reel and tackle box, which really align you up for going up to Shea Lake, 65 miles from Flint. That's the lake that we go to. That's the Sister Ottawa, where we take the kids up for a fishing derby. And so if you biggest fish win prizes, nobody leave without a prize, but first 3 people, first prize is a bite. And so again, I'm calling out to our community. If you know any groups of children or your church, auxiliary, whatever you have, this program is designed for the family. The dates is June the 1st and June the 8th. June the 1st is the training. We do all day training at Bethesda Temple Church, 947 Leland Street. Then the following week, we take them up to Shea Lake in Greyhound buses to the lake. They'd be up there all day. And so we're hoping that we can get 100 participants this year. We were down a little bit last year because of coming out of COVID. So I hope that you tell a neighbor, tell a friend. It is $25 for a student, $35 for an adult. We do work on trying to have a sliding scale for those families that may not be able to reach that mark. We do believe that you have to put $5 or $10 in. You got to put some skin in the game to want to appreciate it or want to show up because it's a tremendous effort. We're trying to raise now $25,000 for this effort And so if any of you guys know any funders, people out in our community, the CREAM or MOD or anybody that may be willing to want to help and support um, our impact in the community. This is our 15th year. We are 501c3, just like the National Football League is a nonprofit organization. It earns $168 billion a year. We don't do anything on those numbers, but we are just hoping that you guys will share and tell others to get on board. And you can contact me. Again, my number is 810-394-4105. My email is mentorroberts@gmail.com. And the other thing I want to close out with, again, please come join Black Lives Matter. When we think about the Urban League or the NAACP, in the past, across the country, they did some amazing work. Back in the past, they did amazing work in Flint, Michigan. Now they're dormant. What we're trying to do, we can't do it alone. We only got about 3 members that we're trying to hold this ship together. We definitely need more people to come on board and to be about change, to be about wanting something different in our community. And we can't keep thinking that Jesus is going to come save us. We got to save ourselves, guys. We got to do the work. We got to be engaged in how we want to live our life and what kind of destiny we're going to leave for the next generation. As always, I close out. Again, please hug somebody, touch somebody, give somebody a smile, or speak to somebody. Wakanda out.